Dash changes characterizes much of the maritime industry, but successful companies seize this as an opportunity, not a threat. Taking advantage of opportunity, however, requires understanding how to execute an effective strategy. Nice selection. Rapid is the correct and valid answer. In the past, the Amsterdam Maritime Museum was an arsenal. What is the function of this part? Perfect. Collect rainwater is the correct choice. It is the art and science of directing, controlling and monitoring of the movement, access of a vessel from one place to another in the shortest, safest, and most secured possible way. Strong choice. Navigation is the right answer. From the previous question, we can deduce that this tap was used to. Correct response. Fill barrels with fresh water for maritime expeditions is the most accurate answer. During the first maritime explorations, the crew was Dash. Good thinking. European is the right answer. Which key issue in maritime logistics focuses on the use of technology to streamline processes and improve efficiency? Clear logic. Your choice digitalization is sound and 100% true. Which key issue in maritime logistics focuses on reducing the environmental footprint of shipping operations? Excellent. Reducing environmental impacts is a brilliant choice. EMO stands for. You got it. Your choice, International Maritime Organization, is right. Which European countries eventually engaged in wars due to tensions arising from their maritime empires? Nice work. You chose France and England, and it is correct. Marine operations managers often work closely with which stakeholders to ensure smooth port operations? Right choice. Local authorities and port operators is the best answer. Which of the following was much more common in maritime empires than in Asian land-based empires? Smart pick. Coerced labor is the correct choice. Which of the following is not a way European maritime empires manage their diverse populations? Great job. Jizza tax is the accurate answer. Which department in ship management is responsible for compliance with maritime regulations? Smart move. Safety and quality managers is an accurate answer. Which of the following is not a factor affecting the supply of vessels in maritime business? On track. Fuel costs is the correct answer. What was the strategy of the Portuguese for empire building through sea-based exploration? Sharp thinking. Establishing self-sufficient trading posts is the right choice. Which technique of state building was not important for the European maritime empires? Correct. Monumental architecture is the right answer. What was the main reason for the expansion of maritime exploration from 1450 to 1750? You chose desire for new trade routes, and it is correct. Which language is commonly used as the international standard for maritime English? Valid point. English is true. Which French archipelago contributes to almost half of the French maritime domain? Nicely done. French Polynesia is a solid answer. When communicating with a non-English speaking vessel, the maritime pilot should. You're right. Use clear and simple language, gestures, and visuals is the correct answer. What proportion of France's land area corresponds to the French maritime domain? Well picked. 20 times is the correct answer. The following are the impact of maritime country in economy sector, except dash. Excellent choice. Establish diverse communication is the right answer. What is the primary goal of using low-carbon fuels in the maritime industry? Well reasoned. Lowering greenhouse gas emissions is the correct choice. Which European country was the first mover in establishing maritime empires? Great thinking. Portugal is the right choice. Marine operations managers are responsible for coordinating activities at. Well done. Port facilities is the right choice. Which organization sets the requirements for maritime English proficiency? Bravo! International Maritime Organization is the answer. What is the primary goal of supply chain resilience in maritime logistics? Right again. Minimizing supply chain disruptions is a valid answer. Market competition in maritime business is influenced by factors such as. Good job. Your answer all of the above works well here. What is the role of maritime English in maintaining navigational safety? Solid response. Facilitating effective communication between ships is a valid choice. Encomienda, hayenda, chattel slavery, and mitta are all examples of dash. Exactly. Coerced labor systems make sense and it is right choice. When we talk about maritime territories, what are examples of resources? Great job. Fish, for example, herring, salmon, smelt is the accurate answer. If the ship is connected to land, how do we call it in maritime English? Valid point. Moored is true. Which of the following has led to very strong growth in maritime trade? Nice selection. The invention of the container is the correct and valid answer. What is the maritime zone in which the Canadian government has power? Exactly. 200 nautical mile zone makes sense and it is right choice. What can impact the availability of capital for maritime businesses? Correct. Investment in port infrastructure is the right answer. Standard marine communication phrases are primarily used for. Smart move. Maritime English communication is an accurate answer. Mergers and acquisitions in the maritime industry are influenced by. Sharp thinking. Financial market conditions is the right choice. In the International Maritime Alphabet, is there a mama and a papa? Right again? No, there is only papa. P is a valid answer. Which of the following is a key challenge faced by fleet managers? Clear logic. Your choice limited access to financing is sound and 100% true. What is the importance of using standardized maritime terminology? You chose to ensure clear and precise communication, and it is correct. How do shipping cycles impact freight rates in maritime economics? Bravo! They cause fluctuations in freight rates is the answer. What does the term breakwater refer to in maritime terminology? Excellent. A structure designed to protect a harbor from waves is a brilliant choice. How does infrastructure connectivity affect maritime trade flows? Right choice. It reduces trade barriers is the best answer.
What is the site where we can see maritime traffic in real time?
Nice work. You chose marine traffic, and it is correct.
What sport is mentioned in the International Maritime Alphabet?
Nicely done. Golf is a solid answer. What is the impact of regulatory changes on maritime economics? Good job. Your answer, altered supply and demand for shipping services, works well here. Alexandria was the center of maritime trade how many years ago? Smart pick. None of the above is the correct choice. What is the primary purpose of bridge-to-bridge communication? Perfect. Sharing navigational information is the correct choice. Which one of these was not traded on the Maritime Silk Route? Well done. Gunpowder is the right choice. The most affected sector of being maritime country are dash. Correct response. Economy, social, and social interaction is the most accurate answer.
Maritime English is included in how many IMO model courses?
You got it. Your choice IMO model course 3.1 is right.
Trade policies and tariffs can affect maritime business by.
Well picked. Shaping demand for maritime services is the correct answer. What is the extent of the French maritime domain in 2020? You're right. 10.76 million km2 is the correct answer.
What is the primary role of a marine operations manager?
Great thinking. Overseeing cargo loading and unloading is the right choice. In maritime digits and numbers, what does a 6 look like? Well reasoned. 6 is the correct choice. Effective maritime English communication contributes to. Excellent choice. Enhanced crew performance and teamwork is the right answer. Regulations governing vessel operations can impact the. Solid response. All of the above is a valid choice. In maritime phraseology, the term ITA stands for strong choice. Estimated time of arrival is the right answer.
Flag state jurisdiction in maritime law refers to.
On track. The country where a ship is registered is the correct answer. Maritime insurance and liability are crucial for. Good thinking. Ensuring cargo safety is the right answer. The dash major oceans relevant to maritime routes. Well done. 4 is the right choice. What choice is not in the 4 pillars of maritime? Perfect. Who is the correct choice?
Maritime Labour Code of 2006 is widely known as.
Nice selection. Seafarer's Bill of Rights is the correct and valid answer. What was the Maritime Trade Museum's name? Clear logic. Your choice Maritime Museum is sound and 100% true. What emirate is the Maritime Museum located in? Solid response. Sharjah is a valid choice. How to spell E in the maritime alphabet? Nice work. You chose Echo and it is correct.
What is means in maritime alphabet?
Nicely done. Mike is a solid answer. A maritime pilot's primary role is to. Well picked. Navigate the vessel through challenging waters is the correct answer. What is a node in maritime transport? Good thinking. The unit of measurement for speed is the right answer. International Maritime Organization. Well reasoned. IMO is the correct choice. Maritime spaces currently support. Excellent choice. 90% of world trade is the right answer. When did maritime trade start? Strong choice. About 5,000 years is the right answer. What is SOLAS Chapter XI2? Good job. Your answer special measures to enhance maritime security works well here.
What is MELC stand for?
You got it. Your choice Maritime Labor Convention is right. METSA stands for. Right again. Maritime Transportation Security Agency is a valid answer. MESIS stands for.
Bravo! Maritime Security Information System is the answer.
How you will get all these quiz questions in PDF books format? On track. Contact Narayan Changder is the correct answer.